Hey guys, Kristin here. So some of you might remember last year I published a video about my quest to get Romanian citizenship by descent. So I wanted to provide a little update for you here and share some of what I've learned about my family history and also some of the options to be able to proceed with this endeavor. So if you're interested in getting citizenship in another country or another passport, then make sure to subscribe and follow along this journey. I don't know how long it will take yet, but I'll be sharing what happens every step of the way, from gathering documents to hiring attorneys to help me, to going to the consulate, and ultimately ending up in Romania, fingers crossed. So why do I want to get Romanian citizenship by descent? Well, the main reason is because my family immigrated from Romania and also from Italy and also from Ireland and Scotland and became naturalized citizens of the United States and lost their original citizenship. And if you know me, I love to travel, I'm interested in culture and living abroad, and I just feel like it's my personal duty as the oldest child of my extended family to proceed with this and to reacquire the nationality that my ancestors lost. You know, they were coming to the United States for a better life, and they didn't intend to go back, but things can kind of tend to go full circle. And if you had ancestors that left another country, perhaps somewhere in Europe, you might find yourself being more interested in traveling there or living there someday. So the number one reason is because I just feel very connected with my ancestry, and I find it fascinating to research where we came from. I've been to genealogists in Ireland, and I have a membership on Ancestry.com now and have been researching there. The second reason is because I just love Europe. I love living in Europe. I love the lifestyle of Europe. And I'm not sure exactly which country I would want to live in forever, but I know that I definitely want to live in Europe full time for most of my life. And up until now, the main way that I've been able to stay in Europe is with my passport, with a tourist authorization, but that only gives you between 90 to 180 days, or maybe even up to a year, depending on where you're going, unless you get some other type of work permit or study permit or residency permit. But due to the nature of my lifestyle and my job, I rarely stay in one country for at least 6 or 8 or 9 months per year. And that's typically the window that you need to be able to maintain residency status in another country. And, you know, maybe I don't like the commitment of knowing that I have to live in one country for at least 6 months per year for the next 3 to 5 years or more to be able to maintain that status, because there's just so many countries that I love to visit and be in. And, you know, life is unpredictable. We've had so much happen in the past few years as well with the pandemic and everything. And so I do plan on staying in Europe for the foreseeable future, even though I'm in Miami right now. But I also do want to spend an extended amount of time in Romania and in that region in Eastern Europe, because I really love that area. And I'm just tired of having to leave the Schengen zone every 90 days. So having a second citizenship and a passport is a great plan B, especially one that's European. It allows me to connect with my ancestry and also provides a safety net and security for my lifestyle moving forward. And I have found so much fascinating information about my ancestors. So I have some notes here that I will share with you. So my great-grandfather, his name was John Kontz. So John is his American name, but Jan is his Romanian name. And he originally came over to the US in 1926 through New York. And this was after World War I, because my great-grandfather got very gravely injured during the First World War, and he almost had his arm amputated in a field hospital. He told my mother that he begged them not to amputate his arm, And I'm not sure exactly how he convinced them not to, as that was quite a common medical practice at the time, but he was able to keep his limb, and after that really did not want to be at risk of something like that happening again. So with rumblings of the Second World War, or maybe economic and political unrest after the First World War, he wasn't taking any second chances, and so he came over to the United States. And he actually got married to my grandmother Helen, or Elena was her name. They got married in Hungary, actually, on March 20th, 1920. So after a few years of marriage and having a couple of kids, John came over, and then my great-grandmother, my grandfather, and my great-aunt came over through New York from France on a ship called the Mauritania, and this was in 1931. And I actually found a photo of the ship. I found copies of the ship's records on Ancestry.com, and this video is not sponsored by Ancestry, but I'll leave a link to that in the video description if you're interested. And it was just it just made it so real to see the actual photo of the ship records, and to see how their names were written out. Like my grandfather, for example, his occupation was written down as scholar because he was actually a violin prodigy in Romania at the age of 9. My grandfather never pursued becoming a violinist, although he was accepted into Juilliard, but his passion was aviation and airplanes. And so that was what he pursued through his career. And my grandparents both worked at Pan Am in Miami, skipping ahead a little bit, but I do believe that part of their love of travel and aviation is somehow genetically encoded in my DNA and has led to, very much of who I am today. Another interesting document I found were the World War II registration documents for both my grandfather and my great-grandfather, and it looked like they went in and registered on the same day, and that was in June 30th of 1942. I don't believe either of them ever went to war, at least, didn't go abroad during World War II, but they may have served in some way. And then ultimately, my grandfather and grandmother got married in 1940 in the town of Akron, Ohio. And they lived close by. I think they were introduced by neighbors, and pretty much, that was my grandma. I think it was her first or second boyfriend, and they stayed together until he died at age 92. So also skipping a bit ahead there. But if we go back a bit with my grandmother's ancestry, it's also quite interesting, and I will be researching if I can obtain Italian citizenship by descent, because I would like to live in Europe, and that's one of my goals, but my main goal in this entire process is to reinstate the citizenship of all my ancestors. So that includes Hungarian, Romanian, Italian, and Irish. And I will be researching each of those, so stay tuned for more. So my grandmother's entire family was from Sicily, from a town called Galtieri Siacomino. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I can do a separate video on their ancestry. But yes, my great-grandmother Helen was actually from Hungary, not Romania. So she was born in Nagy Kanisa, Hungary, in 1893. So where my grandfather was born in Romania, it's a town called Nadlac, which is on the border of Hungary. And so I don't know the whole story, but I think that my great-grandfather was Romanian, my great-grandmother was Hungarian. They lived on the border, they somehow met, and they had my grandfather and great-aunt who both had dual nationality, Hungarian and Romanian citizenship. So Hungary is on the next step after I figure out this Romania situation. So some of the documents that I have collected in this process so far include my birth certificate, my mother's birth certificate, my grandfather's birth certificate, his death certificate. The next step which one of the attorneys has asked me for, is his naturalization record from the United States. So back in 2010s, my grandparents had a document that has kind of just information, like ancestral information about our family. And we actually had written down my grandfather's entire family's naturalization dates and records. So my great-grandparents were naturalized in 1932 and 1938. And then my grandfather and his sister in 1944. So that's also interesting that he registered for the World War II draft before becoming a naturalized citizen. Maybe someone knows more about how that process worked. Yeah, I wanted to share this with you because if you have a record of your ancestry, then you can share that with your relatives as well. So if you don't have it, then it might be worth looking into or asking your relatives about, where they came from, when they were naturalized. Like I even have the certificate numbers, which I was really surprised to find. So definitely, if you're interested in things like this, you can collect this information, potentially get citizenship by descent yourself, and then also pass that on to your descendants as well. So my next step is to actually get a copy of my grandfather's naturalization certificate from the Office of Genealogy Records from the US government. So I applied for that today. And my next step is also to choose a law firm or provider to work with to help me with this, because I know so much from planning relocations around the world that these sorts of things, it's not really something that you want to do by yourself. It's always good to invest $1,000 or so and get the guidance that you need. Now, those quotes range a lot, from $1,000 to $10,000. So I'll film a separate video about that with more details, and maybe you guys can help me make a decision there. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see how this journey unfolds. And you can also check out my original video about this journey that I'll link to right here.